call this meeting of the Underhill Planning Commission to order on Thursday, January 19th. Thank you everyone for coming. And then thank you very much to Jeff, Jared, and Mallory for who I traded emails with about possibly joining the Planning Commission when we have a vacancy or two. So thank you for taking time to come.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Does anyone have any addition? Does anyone in the Planning Commission have any additions to the agenda? Okay. And is there any public comment?
No.
Okay. Okay. In that case, we have approved previous meeting minutes on the agenda, but did those actually go around?
They did not.
Okay.
I actually,
so.
yeah, I haven't been able to distribute those
Okay.
yet, so we'll have to attend to that next week.
So we will do January 5th meeting minutes at the next meeting, maybe two meetings if you get to it. Otherwise, just January 5th.
Yeah, we can get caught up.
Cool. Thank you. Nick, you're on center stage for the first two items.
Sure.
So local option tax update.
Yeah, so the local option tax update is that I continue to look into it and continue to have not found a central source of authority.
Did you get a reply to that email to the Department of Taxes?
I did.
You copied me on?
So far, I've reached out to the Department of Taxes.
Okay.
I've also reached out to the League of Towns and Cities. And I've
Geez, we know somebody who works there.
yeah, we certainly
Kale.
do. Yes.
Unfortunately, Kale, no offense, Kale, if you listen to the recording, just referred us to someone else who
Yes,
works at
Jeff
VLCT.
Baxter. Yeah. Jeff Baxter, who is a fellow attorney at VLCT along with Kale, and who also pointed out that it would be the state to make such a determination.
Right.
So whether the question, just to bring everyone up to speed, is whether or not Underhill is eligible to institute a local option tax of any kind. I mean, we have our own proposal here with us. The select board made its own proposal for how that could look, but of any kind, without having to first undergo a charter change to allow this. Hi, Val.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, Val.
Everyone, sorry I'm not there.
So some towns need to, or municipalities need to first change their charter to allow for the option of a local option tax. Some don't. The question is whether or not Underhill needs to change its charter if it wanted to institute a local option tax. So I keep looking into it. Someone at a guy named Jim Whitehouse at the tax department who I spoke to believes that we are not eligible to institute a local option tax without a charter change first.
So a charter change would mean that we would have to get a petition with 250 signatures on it, and then it would have to go to a town vote, and the vote does not have to happen during town meeting day because we just changed the charter for each.
Yeah.
So
correct.
That's all that
You
entails.
would have to go through the same process, but that also does mean state legislative approval of the charter change as well. So,
but that's not a barrier, is it? I don't think.
It's not a barrier necessarily. It's, I mean,
Who do you call?
it's certainly it would certainly lengthen the process the time between now and instituting starting to collect a tax, if that's indeed what the town wanted to do.
Did we have to spend money as a town when they were dealing with the select board issue? Was like the town lawyer involved in that, or do you
I imagine so.
do you handle that internally and it just goes to someone at the state legislature? And like, what I'm getting at is, would we be asking the select board to spend money if it's a charter change? Do we know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
I can tell you, we're already spending some amount of money investigating it because I'm corresponding with our town attorney to try to get an answer to this question as well. Right. But that's a matter. That's a already budgeted for expense for my department to incur legal fees for research such as that, among other things.
So what's the next step? Just because, as everyone knows, like somehow the tax department told me.
Yeah.
When I called twice that we didn't need it, then someone at the tax department told you that we do need it. So yes. What's the
next step?
How do we resolve it?
Well, the answer is there is no prescribed next step. I would like to continue to look into it until I've had a chance to talk with our attorney, Jim McLean,
Okay,
and who is an expert in municipal law and should know.
sure.
And after that, depending on what Joe says, I think it's either time. I think my feeling is if he says, no, you have to do a charter change,
Then that's that.
then that's that. And I would consider his word final on that particular option. If he
Mhm.
says, no, I don't believe you need a charter change, you can go for it, then I think we need to keep doing some research and try to loop the state in on it and get the state and Joe talking to one another so that we can actually figure out who would be the voice of authority in settling this kind of dispute.
Okay,
So, yeah, and whether, if he says there is no option that a charter change would be necessary, then I guess that opens the question, does the planning commission want to pursue,
yeah,
a charter change in pursuit of the local option tax? But I
Okay.
guess that's kind of, down the road.
and just for the record, in case anyone were to listen, we're talking about a local option tax solely with respect to rooms.
Yeah.
For short-term rentals.
So the money has to be earmarked for something specific, not just.
It would be, it would
And
have to be.
So why is that?
That's just the way that the law, the Enabling Act, creating the option for like local option taxes is worded. You have to have a destination for where that tax money is going to go.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily need to be like spent, but it needs to be allocated for a particular purpose. It can't just go back into general revenue replacement or something like that.
So we would determine that, or the.
If it got to the point where we were, where all obstacles had been cleared,
Mhm.
our status was clear, we were able to do a local option tax. And when I say we, I mean the town as a whole. Then we at that point in the drafting of the language for how the tax would be, the new bylaw would be written, we would write in language that would direct the funds to a particular place.
Oh, do we know where we want that particular place to be?
I mean, I think we've talked about a couple areas in the past, but I think maybe it's okay with you. What we do is, just because we have to get through the ARPA stuff tonight, let's figure out if this requires a charter change or not, circle back on it next meeting, and then when we know our path forward, and if we want to recommend it, then spend some time on it. If that's okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think something like the road budget.
Yeah, I was thinking infrastructure.
I was gonna propose a David Edson statue.
I was thinking recreation maybe.
So yeah, we'll have a vigorous debate when the time comes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, but just to keep us moving, so we have time for ARPA. Underhill Center sidewalk update. Nick.
Yes. So after speaking with the commission a few weeks ago, getting some feedback, I did approach the select board a week ago, last Thursday, during their regularly scheduled meeting. I showed them a draft application that I had written for a feasibility scoping study. Hi, Sandy. Let me back up a little bit, just to remind everyone, the Regional Planning Commission has a process where it has an option of allowing municipalities to partner with them on doing things like feasibility and scoping studies. The way it works is there's a competitive process to get on their work plan. They choose the plans that the studies that they are most interested in pursuing. Those chosen pay 20% of the study's costs. The Planning Commission taps its own funds to pay the other 80% of the study's costs, and then they act as a project manager for the following year as the study is completed. I wrote up an application to get on that into that process to have it outlines a proposal for a scoping study that would examine routes, budgets, timelines for a sidewalk, multi-use path, or some kind of active transportation infrastructure. That's how I'm phrasing it. Stretching from Sandhill Road to Underhill Central School and ideally up to Casey's Hill as well. So this, if approved, if we are approved for this study, we would, then the Regional Planning Commission would project manage this study over the course of FY24, so that's July 2023 to July 2024, and we would emerge from that process with what's called a preferred alternative. So that is to say, an alternative to what exists now. So it would be a preferred route or design of all of the various ones studied. And that would place us in the position where we would then be able to start to commission detailed engineering and surveying necessary to lay out a sidewalk, and then contract with a firm to actually build it.
Mm-hmm.
So completion of the study would give me all of the tools that I would need to start seeking funding for those next two phases.
What's the chance that we might get?
I think it's quite high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question regarding just from one end, point A to point B.
Sure.
Underhill Road, across the bridge and into the village. That stretch of road is going to be hard.
That's what the scoping study is designed to gather information on.
I think you could just drive there and see, because the cemetery is on the one side,
Mm-hmm.
and on the other side, land kind of drops off in
Mm-hmm.
people's front yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a study would examine exactly how much room we've got down to the inches, and examine best routes, compare it to other similar things that have been done in other communities similar to that, and recommend best options. So that's what I recommended to the select board. They chose to. I asked for a motion to approve it because the application, and that's necessary for advancing the application into CCRPC. I can't do this sort of stuff unilaterally. So I asked the select board for permission to submit the application. They signed off on it, and they've also allocated the match that I asked for, which is the 20% of what the study would cost is $16,000.
Great job.
A little prep behind the scenes, but once that was done, I would say
Round of applause.
fairly. So so 16,000 is being allocated, budgeted for this coming budget cycle to pay for that
Good.
match.
Right.
If accepted, we would be billed at a prorated rate for the contract. Like, we'd select a contractor to do the consultant to do the study. We'd work with them. Every time they send a bill to CCRPC, RPC would in turn bill us for 20% of that. That would be our match. The idea is that would end up being around $16,000 total.
So what's the next step with CCRPC, and what do you need from us?
The next step for them is they just need to get the application. I haven't sent it in yet. I'm just working on a few extra things. So once I assemble those last bits and send it into them, we just pretty much wait until they make decisions in like February or March.
Okay.
And then they issue those decisions in usually like late April or early May.
Great.
About which studies and projects they're going to be pursuing. So
we could get turned down.
We could get turned down. I spoke with some of the people who were reviewing them. They said this seems like a very competitive one. I tried to incorporate as much of the feedback they gave me. So there's no guarantees, but I feel pretty good about it.
Cool. Wow, great job.
So could we earmark some ARPA funds for that, or would that?
Yeah, so that brings us to kind of to our next topic here, the review of the ARPA proposals.
Yeah.
But to summarize briefly, there are currently 3 different proposals in front of the ARPA Advisory Committee related to a sidewalk or active transportation infrastructure here in the center. So, and we'll go through those in more detail in a few minutes. I know Brian's anxious to get to those, and we can do that.
Well, let me give the background, because I think it's good that everyone has it. So Val, thank you, Val, and I attended the last ARPA meeting. And Val, correct me if you think this is in any way I go off track. I would say we found out, thankfully, before it was too late, that there's been a serious misunderstanding with respect to our role in relation to the ARPA committee. No one's fault, including us, I think. I think we had early on, if everyone recalls, given them the results of, not only the results of the survey, but kind of how we had ordered the priorities that came off the survey, based on the town plan. And the way they're running their process, basically none of that would have been included. because the way they're running their process is you submit a proposal, and if you don't submit a proposal, then they sort of don't put it on their master list, for lack of a better word, of how they're going to decide where the ARPA money goes. So they have a line item on the proposal that says, like, I don't remember the exact wording, but does this comply with the town plan, basically? And then you check it yes or no. But they weren't really, my understanding at least is, there's no one on the ARPA committee who's super familiar with the town plan, no one from the planning commission's on the ARPA committee. So what they requested was, if there are things in the town plan that you think we need to have on our master list, please submit them, because there was going to be I had sort of viewed us as a resource. Like, we sent them the list, and then at some point they were going to pull us in and say, how do these compare to the town plan, including the list that you had sent us to begin with? And that is not how the process is going to work. So, and the deadline is the end of the month, which is why I'm sort of being so protective of keeping a block of time here for this. And if we finish early, great. But we sort of need to go through what they already have. And, we're all obviously very familiar with the town plan. If there's anything else we think needs to go in on that master list to be considered for ARPA. And with that long spiel, Val, is that a fair summary of your takeaway as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more a game of telephone. I think sorry if there's an echo.
There's
Can
not.
you hear it? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, a bit of a game of telephone. I think we gave that final list to the select board. Like, we got the survey results, we looked through it, reprioritized, gave the list to the select board. It was a little bit unclear. I think that did make it, maybe not to the full committee, maybe just to the chair. They sort of knew about it.
I went in and met with them and gave it to them.
Okay, great. Yeah, but the gist is we would need to create an application for all those items if we would want to see them move forward.
And I think it can be in my takeaway, Val, tell me if you agree with this, was it could even be an abbreviated application as long as they get something so they can put it on the list, and then we could maybe fill in some of the blanks.
Yeah, in the last week, they've shared some applications that they've received, and they run from highly detailed to just a paragraph.
That's what I was going to ask. How much is already on the table?
Nick has
is that what these are?
everything sitting there. I will say, I don't know, is that everything they received some relatively incomplete applications that I think they're not even considering for things that are, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that are sort of completely inappropriate for ARPA funding.
Okay.
I don't think, we're not going to go through those. I mean, these are just, I think, things that generally touch our universe and that, are relative, are realistic things that could be ARPA funding could be.
There's 20 of them right now.
Yeah.
I think some of them I think will be so obviously not the purview of or something that the planning commission is interested in that we can move right on past those. So
okay.
Should we get started on?
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm just going to say that when we
Sorry, would it be,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Does anyone have access to our priorities list? Because I wouldn't mind having that on the screen so that we're reminded of what we had prioritized 2 months ago.
That's a good point.
Rather than just saying, oh yeah, that does sound like a good idea, but maybe it was never on the list.
I'm going to try to find it while Nick does this. I would have sent it to Brad Holden at some point.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to put up on the screen the first ARPA application the ARPA committee received. If I can remember how to do that and go to meeting.
What's the total dollar amount of the ARPA?
It exceeds the amount, the amount asked for. If you total all of the applications, it exceeds the amount available. So
how much is available?
600. That's better. Yeah. It's in my range. Yeah. Never really know how to make this go away, but anyway. So here we can see folks on GoToMeeting, are you able to see this?
Yes,
Down.
No,
yeah,
not
Down,
Yes.
Sandy? Okay, great. Let me
the
just
first
shrink
two
this down a little.
paragraphs at least.
Yeah, let me shrink this down a little bit for us.
Oh, really?
So let's see. So, sorry, folks. Okay. So, this is just, this is boilerplate ARPA application. Okay, so number one, application came in on October 27th. The intersection of Stevensville and Maple Leaf Roads washes out frequently, leaving large ruts and potholes. This happens several times a year after large rain events. This proposal would have the town install a culvert under that intersection to divert stormwater runoff, thus preventing the erosion of the intersection. Estimated costs, typical for installing a culvert underneath a town roadway. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that would be. And then here is the scoring matrix. Benefit, you can see for yourself here.
And I think most relevant for us that, our number one thing on the list that we sent was stormwater. Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
It was the number one thing on the survey and the number one thing on our list. So this, I think, is essentially stormwater.
So somebody's already scored it?
This is these are all self-scored. Everything here is,
okay.
This is
Okay.
all this is a raw application sent in by the applicant with no feedback given. You folks are the feedback.
I'd okay that. I know where it is. I might wait through there a lot.
Sure.
I'd like to see all of them in context.
Yeah, maybe we just keep going?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. We will move right on. Okay.
Are we looking to okay these or just?
It's
get
not
some
up to us,
knowledge?
okay, that's
Okay.
not our
Yeah, we
purview,
just
that's
look at
ARPA. I think for us, it's seeing what they have so far, seeing how that fits in with the town
Okay.
plan and seeing if there's something else that needs to be submitted. Yeah, it's not up to us what the ARPA committee approves. I just want to make sure that we feel like there's nothing additional we want to submit to the ARPA committee that's not already been covered, that's a priority in our town plan.
So do they want references to the town plan?
Not really. All you have to do is check this box and say it complies with the town plan. So, I mean, for us, yeah, I just want to make sure we're not, I thought it was smart,
Wow, not
the way the process is running, for us to make sure that nothing's being missed that is a priority under the town plan.
The town plan is so vague in general anyway that
They're not gonna build a cover.
Yeah.
anything.
Well, there's some that definitely don't comply with the town plan.
Okay. So this is proposal number 2. This is to summarize basically the Jericho Underhill Park District would like to expand and improve parking options at the Mills Riverside Park.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
where?
I guess on the lawn in front of the at the parking lot, basically. Yeah.
Well, not, what do they do in the winter?
So that's not technically in Underhill, but we're part of the park district, so we would, I guess.
So the park district that, does service this town is asking for some of the ARPA money. Yep.
Would that comply with our town? Okay, we're gonna keep going. Right. Next, we'll get bogged down.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me the minutes.
Well, not on that.
So, okay, so sorry, here's a quick diagram. Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so looks like they want to
I
widen
found
the
it.
curb cut here and expand the parking
It's
lot
like
area.
Tourette's.
Yeah.
Seems like Jericho should contribute a little bit to that too. When you-
Jericho has been requested, they're requesting about 10,000 more from Jericho than they are from Underhill. So the ask for Underhill is 16,000, whereas the ask from Jericho is 26,000. They're asking both towns to contribute ARPA money specifically.
Okay.
So, having quickly gone through that one, Harvest Crossing. Harvest Crossing, yes. This one is submitted by Dan Mance on behalf of UCU, and let's see. So this project is asking for ARPA funds to support the development of the proposed Harvest Crossing low-income housing development in the flats.
What is it they're asking for?
Let's take a look. They are asking for money, it appears, for finishing engineering and various administrative costs associated with just the planning. So our specific request is for $75,000, which will be applied to the roadway and utility infrastructure for the homes. So I guess it would cover some amount of construction as well.
And this is from whoever's developing this project?
Yeah, which so far has been Habitat for Humanity. So yeah, Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity is the developer that has been working on this. Right now, my understanding is that the archaeology assessment is the ongoing.
Yeah, what is up with that? Why'd they have to do it?
Cold, wet ground is hard to dig in, is my understanding of why it's been held up. But it is a requirement. It's
I
kind
could
of state
speak
requirement.
on that if you'd
Oh,
like.
Sandy, yeah, please fill us in.
Yeah. So the grant that we got through the Vermont Community Development Program is actually a HUD grant, which requires all sorts of preliminary investigation before you can, they'll okay release of the funds. So it included wetlands, it included an environmental assessment, archaeology, appraisal, that sort of thing. So that's what that's about. But it has been done. All of those things have been done, and we're just waiting historic preservation's okay that they actually found nothing on the site. So we're getting close. The way the project works, for those that aren't familiar with it, is that the church is buying and creating the infrastructure for affordable homes, and then they will sell lots to Habitat for Humanity to build them.
And how many lots, Sandy?
Well, it's zoned for 1 acre. So, and it's just a little over 8 acres of the parcel. So we can only build probably 7 units, and 1 or 2 will be duplexes.
Well, that's better than before.
Anyone else on that one, or?
No.
Well, that's because it's 1 acre zoning. Right?
Yeah.
Correct.
And if that were changed, then there could be more houses there.
That's right.
Can't you have 4 units on 1 acre? That's the way your zoning's written.
You could build a fourplex. Habitat prefers, and people prefer single family homes. So yeah.
But 5 makes it complicated.
Well, if they want Habitat for Humanity wants single family homes, so. All right, what's next, Nick?
Yeah. Next would be ERML. So Deborah Robson Memorial Library asking for money to help upgrade their HVAC system and do other sort of like efficiency upgrades related to their just building operations.
Okay.
So they're asking for $17,000.
Yeah, they've received some interesting proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have.
They have.
There's
Okay.
a lot else in there, it looked like, but
Oh,
looked like
gotcha.
book bins and light bulbs and beyond HVAC. Just
Yeah. So
I think there was some energy efficiency stuff I
Energy,
noticed
yeah.
as you were going through it.
yeah, it's sort of a modernization of variety of like building systems and IT systems.
And EV charging.
EV charging stations, yeah.
Someone
So-
where the library.
And what's the total, did you say?
Hmm.
Who owns that building?
The total requested is, I believe, 17,000, a little over 17,000.
If it were
For
me.
HVAC? Wow.
That's for that's for this area, oh, sorry, so it would be more, I guess the air conditioning.
It says
HVAC,
cost unknown, AC is
yeah,
very
and
expensive.
EV is unknown here, so.
If it were me putting this up, I would say this fits in the town plan.
Where does that come into the?
Well, I would say the energy efficiency fits in the town plan, because
that
of
fits.
that angle.
Right.
The rest of it, I don't know. Recreation, maybe. The energy angle I see. I don't know about the rest of it.
Okay,
Access point.
I'm just gonna pass around my copy of the town plan for.
we weren't gonna decide every detail of it. We were gonna look at all the plans.
Yeah, we can keep moving through these
Yeah.
here.
We'll get
So,
bogged down.
this one, pretty
Disc golf
straightforward.
course.
Proposal for installation of disc golf course. Estimated cost of the disc golf course, $7,375. This is at Browns River Middle School.
I like it.
Okay. That's sort of self-explanatory.
Okay, here we have natural
Oh,
resource.
Val Story.
Yeah, who's that?
I think it's probably best that we just let Val explain this one.
Well, this is the natural resources inventory, right? This is also an
Yeah, do you
RS,
really need me
so-
to explain?
I don't think so. I mean, unless anyone has any questions. I mean, we've also told the ARPA committee that this is frankly maybe something we can circle back, but we had this on our list as something, so this may be something we wanna at least submit a memo of support for, or a proposal saying, hey, we also wanna do a natural resource inventory, because this is the threshold step for our zoning stuff we wanted to look at, so. Let me make a note. Okay,
Now I still have it.
yes.
I would like to just note also that all of these are available on the website. Everything we're looking at, all these PDFs with their attachments and exhibits, are available on our website. Jen has done a great job in keeping that up there. So
Thank you, John.
Town site.
the town website, yes.
Did you miss one? Sorry.
Don't believe so. No, that was
Okay,
a natural
sorry,
resource
sorry.
inventory.
Yeah.
So now we have Underhill Center Safety. This is circling back a little bit to where we segued from on the sidewalk. Laura Seaman put forth a proposal, really just more of a request than a proposal, to install or plan some kind of pedestrian safety enhancements here in the center. I don't want to.
So this is different than the sidewalk proposal.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, she's, interpreting her words. She is calling for some kind of dedicated pedestrian infrastructure, which for most people, I think sidewalk is what jumps to mind when they hear that phrase.
Got it.
But no, it does not specifically call for a sidewalk or any particular route for it, other than in Underhill Center, and built such that it makes it safer to walk in Underhill Center.
Okay.
That is, yeah, so that's that proposal from one person. Town record digitization. This one has been submitted by our town clerk, Sherry Moran. And it is a proposal to spend ARPA money on the costs to hire, a business that would specialize in this sort of thing. There are plenty of them to digitize town records, including stuff in our land records and also in our zoning files.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of towns have it done. I can search several towns' records from my computer without having to go there.
Yeah. Seems a pretty good one.
And some of them don't
Like
work well.
electronic medical records.
The only thing is, like Stowe, theirs crashed. And now you have no means of sifting anything, because the card file stopped at a certain date. You're like, gosh, didn't you think this might happen?
All right, I think we've understand that one.
So that one, yeah, that was straightforward. Okay, Underhill Center sidewalk. Okay, so this one is from Isabel Tuck of the This is written in concert with the rec committee. Isabel's a member of the rec committee. This proposes that, so if you folks recall, back in October, the rec committee put together a proposal and presented it to the select board. They made the same request that I made last Thursday, essentially, asking for the select board approval and funding to do a scoping study on a sidewalk through Underhill Center. The sidewalk, the select board was interested in the idea, declined to make any motions related to that proposal at that meeting. And at the next select board meeting, Brad Holden, our town administrator, presented a sort of alternative version of that proposal, saying he noted that, you know, there was maybe a way that the town could start working on, or at least, you know, doing surveying and the final design on certain sections of the route that the Underhill Rec Committee had proposed. Those sections being from Underhill Central School down to Moore Park with a spur out towards to access the town pond. So Brad basically noted that we could probably start commissioning a surveyor and a designer to get started on that, and even went so far as to draw up a little a plan, which you can see. Oh, sorry, here. So this was something that Brad drew up. Isabel liked it and said, yeah, certainly, we'd like to propose this as a use of ARPA money, and is asking, and in this proposal, she and the rec committee asked for $50,000 to begin the surveying and engineering design work for this section of sidewalk that you see laid out on this here map. Yep. So that money wouldn't necessarily cover the construction of the sidewalk, but it would pay for basically the blueprints.
I very much hesitate to ask this question because I'm guessing it's a long answer. But what happens if ARPA committee says, let's do this, and CCRPC gives you a grant?
Well, then we'd be in a very good position.
Okay.
We get to keep the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
We only pay 20% then.
So
Okay.
we can talk about the contingencies.
Okay.
We can talk about that right now, actually. So if the ARPA committee decides to, so Isabel was well aware of my ask to the select board, as well as their approval of it. And again, that's not a guarantee. It's still an application process. But so Isabel is clued into that and is supportive of it and wants to see that go forward. So that's going forward with her blessing. Now, she has not pulled this application. If the ARPA committee were to approve it, and as well as the CCRPC, well, then we'd be in the position of having $50,000 allocated towards the engineering and design for a sidewalk network. It would be then essentially up to the town to decide whether or not they wanted to just get started based on Brad's plan here, or if they wanted to wait until the survey, the scoping study had been completed, and then start actually spending that money, or do something else with the money entirely.
Understood.
Yeah, so I think, just kind of speaking practically, I think that the most cautious way to do it would probably be to allow both of these to go forward. If the ARPA committee decides to approve this, then we have $50,000, already allocated for design, surveying, engineering, assuming that that we are selected for and complete this scoping study. So we'd be ready to roll on moving on that as soon as it's done in like July 2024, let's say.
Okay.
But wouldn't have a real holistic approach to what the whole project might look like. The regional planning commission would give us a picture of
that's what the scoping study
build-out
is.
of the whole
Exactly. Yeah.
infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah. And the answer to that scoping study, the results of that scoping study might well be it's practically impossible to, as Lee suggested, put a sidewalk in certain sections of the center. If that is the option, if that's the case, it's not what I would prefer, but if that is the case, we would still, and the ARPA committee decides to allocate this money as per Isabel's request, we would then have $50,000 that we could get started building the sections that the scoping study did say are realistic. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, so UCS rec path number 10. We're halfway through it, folks, or we're almost there. Okay, so this one has been proposed by members of the Brewster River Mountain Bike Club, and the proposal is to build a sort of off-street, entirely contained on school property, like bike trail network, kind of a loop that kids could ride their mountain bikes on, with some sort of mild features like little logs and grade changes and stuff like that. The proposal so far is to build it entirely on Underhill, on school district property, and really gear it towards students who are in that, who go to that school. So here's a quick map of kind of the area that they're looking for. Phase 1, build a path around the perimeter for walking, biking, strollers, kind of the bridle path, gravel path option, and then kind of like a rail trail. And then phase 2 would be to build out a more, again, what you call a single track trail up in the woods, adjacent to that off-street loop around the, and here's some examples, some of the beginner features that they hope to include in that single track of the. Yep. So that's the proposal, and let's see what they want for that. They're asking for $18,000. Yeah.
All right.
So that looks like they've already.
So far, has anybody actually added up all these requests?
Yeah, Jen has, and it comes to more than is available. But you'll also see some of them are asking for literally all of the ARPA money. So that's kind of, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Underhill Center, Nick Tanner, also on the named in the prior one, asks for money to do a feasibility study on
Water and wastewater.
Water and wastewater here in the center.
That fits right into the plan.
I mean, I think this is one, and I'll flag it, that we should submit something on, because we've done a lot of work regarding grant funding that's available. So I think it's good that if I was in the ARP committee, I would want to know what that sort of work is, right? Because that's something that should be considered. So the two I had so far, like, we should say something about natural resources inventory. I mean, if everyone agrees, and we should say something about wastewater for sure. But we can circle back to that at the end.
The
So
other
you do
was
what we wanna do.
library, wasn't it? Was the library something too?
The library?
Yeah, I thought you said something about the library.
Oh, no, just that they were checking the energy efficiency box, but I don't know if there's any comment for us to contribute on that.
What was that first one?
Natural resources inventory. I mean, that's something that we have, it's on our list, but we can circle back to them at the end, sorry.
NRI and wastewater study. Okay. Everyone feel like they understand this one?
Yes.
Okay.
How much is he asking for?
No specific amount. He asked for, instead of answering that question directly, asked prior to developing proposed first, basically this process here. You can consider this one, I think, more of a, it's one that appears to be more of a prompt to for information about planning work that's already been done, with an implicit request to fund it if it needs funding, in pursuit of the articulated goal of studying what water systems in Underhill Center. Okay, UJFD, add a full-time employee. This one comes from Randy Clark of the Underhill Jericho Fire Department. He has some notes about its history, which are pretty interesting, actually. But suffice it to say, he's asking for $100,000 in the increase, I think, 35 coming from Underhill, to add an extra 3 full-time employees to the fire department to increase their administrative capacities.
Okay, good.
That's a one-time thing? They want to,
Definitely has nothing to do with.
It's
paying them,
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, he's asking for one infusion of money, but I think that we can all understand that an employee is not a one-time expense. So
Yeah.
make of that what you will. Okay, moving right along. Nancy and James Carey proposed that we give all of the available ARPA money, which they overestimate somewhat, to the quote least financially stable Underhill resident for the sole purpose of improving their living condition in Underhill.
Okay, next.
Roadside mowing machine, number 14. This comes from Kurt Johnson. And the proposal is to, yes, purchase a mowing machine for roadside ditch mowing and for field mowing at town-owned properties, the conserved properties.
So
200,000.
big tractor.
Big tractor.
How much
So-
is it?
200
200.
grand almost.
Yeah,
Well, you're right, exactly 200 with the bullhorn.
exactly.
I mean,
And
those are big tractors.
Yeah.
they're big, expensive, they're big tractors. I will note that just for important context, we do, pay someone to mow the ditches right now. So it's not like it's not like it's being done for free. But I'm not the one to ask about how those costs compare.
And probably not much to do with the town plan, really. So
Yeah,
not
it's,
really our.
yeah. There's quite a lot of interesting stuff here about the operations of the road crew.
I'm
So
sure.
anyone who is interested in weighing in on this, I think there's a lot to get involved in. But yeah, anyway. Okay, Mike.
Can I just jump in there for a sec?
Sorry, Val, go ahead.
Some of these tangentially have something to do with the town plan. For example, this mowing request, like no, and the town plan doesn't say to buy a mower, but it does suggest sustainability practices that we would like our road crew to put into place. So in thinking about this one, even the library one, thinking about their HVAC system and their wireless hubs, like I could, if there were an opportunity for us to give input, I'm using both of these as an example, in ways that those proposals could be tweaked to better align with the town plan. Like for example, putting in heat pumps as the HVAC system in the library improves our I can't speak, our energy efficiency, reduces the town energy consumption, which is a goal in the town plan. And if we could tie it to some sort of resiliency effort, that would, like, if there's an opportunity to give feedback and align these proposals with the town plan, I think those would make for strengthening proposals. And I was thinking along the same line with this mowing machine, like maybe we could support it if the road crew at the same time does something to help with invasive species or mows at certain times of year before the invasive species goes to seed. Like things like that are in our town plan.
So maybe when we send over, and Val and I spoke about this at the ARPA committee too, but maybe when we send over specific things, and I'm happy to help write it, we also say like, hey, just a reminder, we're happy to, I can't think of it on the fly, but do what Val's saying. Like, we're happy to get feedback as to how some of the other town proposals, how some of the other proposals might be tweaked to optimize their, connection to the town. That's not it, but yeah. We offered to do that when we were there. Whether they'll take us up on it or not is up to them. But we can remind them of that when we send over our stuff. That's a great idea.
Okay. Next, moving on to Michael Diffenderfer's proposal for a land purchase. Michael Diffenderfer owns the property directly to the east of this one. He's our neighbor. And he would like the town to spend ARPA money on buying, basically doing a boundary line adjustment between this parcel, which the town owns, and his parcel directly adjacent, to create an additional parking area that he could share with the town and like here, with this building, because he's interested in exploring the possibility of building a cafe on his land. So he's asking for 200,000 for the purchase price for the area of land and 50,000 for electric vehicle chargers.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, I'll note that selling land as a municipality is very difficult from a bureaucratic standpoint.
Yeah.
Buying land.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably even harder than buying. So, okay. Underhill Central School Gardens from the parent and teacher. Okay, so make updates to the garden due to age and neglect. It's not in great condition. So this is kind of give the garden a makeover, hoop house, etc. Prune it up, make it more useful. Yeah. The quote is 22,000.
It's a lot of garden.
That's
Yeah.
an expensive garden.
Yeah, yeah. It's, as you can see, it's quite a detailed application, but here are some photos to illustrate where the current condition.
During COVID, when, it's outside.
Yeah.
All right.
New England weather, it's hard. So, okay, here we go. Back to, another sidewalk study. So, another one from Isabel and the Rec Committee.
Well, you've done this.
Yeah, so this so this
And
was
this is
submitted
literally
before
what you
I
did,
talked
right?
to the,
Yeah.
this was submitted basically the day I talked to the select board.
Okay.
But it's basically, just to summarize it, they're asking for the money that it would take to fund the town's match for a scoping study, the same sort of process that I described earlier, to study the section that would not be accounted for if that sort of partial build on public land option was exercised and we started building, down that side of the street. That leaves the rest of the center unstudied for potential sidewalk. This proposal would study that. However, if RPC decides to accept the proposal that I'm putting forward, then this would be effectively superseded by that. But for the record, she's asking for 8,000 to 12,000 as an estimate for how much the town's match would be for that. So that's a little bit under. You'll note what I'm asking for, but that's because my proposal covers everything that she's asking for and then some. So my ask is upped somewhat proportionally. Tomasi Meadow Gazebo. Now I haven't seen these last three here, so I'm seeing this with fresh eyes. Dan Kelsey evidently wants to build a gazebo in the middle of Tomasi Meadow as a gathering space for residents. Additionally, it could be used for special events, music, or festival events. Not sure about the cost. Would search for quotes if it was considered.
Okay.
Yep.
That's where they do all the cross-country skiing now, right?
Mhm.
That's Tomasina.
Yeah, it's the field at the bottom of Casey's Hill. Karen Davis proposes that
That's going to take a lot more than 600 grand.
high-speed internet be extended to all residents in Underhill, Vermont.
It's going to take millions.
I believe this is called for in the town plan.
It is 100% called for in the town plan. That should be number 3 on our list. We should at least address it
Okay, and finally,
because it is on our memo that we sent this select board.
we have the generator. So Energy Committee, Jerry Adams, Energy Committee member, proposes that we spend money to buy a propane generator and all the goodies that you would need to install it and hook it up at the town garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all then, Nick?
That's it for now.
So let me add what we sent the select board then, just to refresh everyone's memory.
What was the cost on the generator for the garage? The damn cost?
Let's see here, 38,000
Oh, wow.
with a proposal for cost savings of $3,000. I'm not entirely sure how that works.
For the town garage?
One of
How?
those standalone that It's a big building. It needs a lot of
Yeah,
three-phase and all, so.
so I'm gonna be annoying and
I guess you get, I guess you get 1 kilowatt per thousand that you spend on
Isn't
it.
that 3
'Cause,
phase
yeah.
coming up Pleasant Valley?
okay, I'm gonna read you guys a few paragraphs and then we can, sorry to be so tough on time.
Okay.
Today, I just want to leave some time to discuss. So here's our memo. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm just gonna skip around a little bit. We said, in accordance with the advice provided by the Vermont League of Cities, this is a memo to the select board back in May. In accordance with the advice provided by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and with your approval, the Planning Commission conducted both A, a public survey, and B, a review of our town plan with respect to how Underhill can best use the ARPA funding to benefit all our residents. And of course, this is before the committee existed. In the survey, the residents of Underhill were asked a series of questions with respect to how they would prioritize the use of the ARPA funding. We have attached the full results of the survey, but highlight the top 3 results. 1, stormwater, 2, broadband, 3, Underhill Central School repairs. It is important to note that this survey did not assign dollar values to any individual item or cross-reference the town plan with respect to each individual question. Then we sort of go on for a couple paragraphs and say, we get to our recommended priorities. So I think this is relevant to what we want to say, right? Our priorities were 1, website, which asterisk worth noting is already being done, so it's not relevant. 2 is town hall, which was fixing up upstairs, and I have not seen a proposal for that, unless that's being dealt with outside of
I
ARPA.
believe that's being dealt with outside of the ARPA advisory committee. So the amount that is being, all the dollar amounts that you have asked for would come from a balance that has already been reduced from its original grant. It's just shy of $1 million. And my understanding is that that difference between what's available via the ARPA committee and what was granted to the town from the federal government, it is the amount that has been already allocated for, among other things, expanded parking at Casey's Hill, town hall renovations, and a couple other miscellaneous items.
So then that one's not relevant. Number 3 was natural resources inventory.
Check.
Check. Number 4 was broadband, so we should circle back on that. Check. Number 5 was stormwater upgrades, which let's make a note if that's something we want to talk about here in a second, because that's only really addressed in the one thing for that culvert. Other than that, there's no proposal for it.
No specific proposal, no.
Number 6 is Underhill Central School repairs. And number 7, and I sort of remember when we were writing this, was others, but then we wrote recreation, weatherizing, solar on town buildings, and community solar. And that's, yeah, then there's another couple wrap-up paragraphs, but those are the sort of, that's the list that we had sent the select board. So comparing that to what the list Nick just went through, I thought was the key thing here, and and seeing if there's things everyone thinks we ought to submit to the ARPA committee. Thoughts?
So you're looking for things that you think we should.
Yeah, the whole thing is the deadline's in a week. So if there's something on those 20 things that Nick read where you think it doesn't adequately address one of the priorities that we identified in the town plan, or you think we need to submit something and say, hey, yeah, we think this is super important per our memo we sent to the select board. Like
We
that.
took the 200,000 out from Mr. Dippy. What would that total price be then of money requested? Do you know?
I'm not sure, no.
Okay. How much was the total amount of money requested?
Well, some of them have no dollars.
Yeah.
But the dollar amounts that we have, I mean, I guess we could scroll through again, but I was remembering 15,
I can glance at what
17.
that Jen's notes and see if she's got anything there, but I
I
don't
thought
think
she, what's that ARPA flow chart?
I think it's just a guide for for how the process is gonna go.
I thought Jen
So
had
my
something.
thoughts were there's 2 really big asks in there. One was the 200 for Mr. Diffenderfer. So
Yeah.
I don't mean to chuckle.
Yeah,
And 200 for the town plow or the town,
yeah.
mower.
And the broadband request is, there's no dollar amount attached, but I mean, that'd be every penny of the.
Well, yeah,
ARPA
no, I
funding,
mean,
and then-
but that takes 400,000 out of all the numbers, and the rest seemed, the most was 35,000 after that.
Right.
Then there were 17 and 15. So it seems like we could maybe accommodate most of them, except for those two big asks.
Which is interesting because that kind of hits on a couple of ours. And the question is, do we want to submit anything around these, right? Because you could clearly spend every penny of the ARPA money on storm water upgrades.
And
then-
there'll be money from elsewhere for that eventually, probably, right? Because they have to be done. They've been.
That's yeah, I mean, we don't have to submit anything to the ARPA committee on these. That's up to us.
Or we can say, based on the items, the proposals that we've seen, these are the ones that align with the town plan.
Got Val.
There were a couple of studies like the sidewalk studies and the wastewater feasibility study. Do we feel, so it sounds like we've put in an alternate for funding for the sidewalk studies. What about for the wastewater feasibility study? Is it a better use of our personal ARPA funds to do the feasibility study or to go after some of these grant opportunities?
What do people think? Like, I mean, you're the one who's been closest to it, Nick, not to put it on you, but I mean, you've sort of lived it more than we have. Do you think requesting ARPA money at the point we're in the wastewater process is something that makes sense, or are we too early because of that forgivable loan program?
I think we are too early for that reason, exactly. There's a lot of support for communities in Underhill's position to just kind of poke around, kick the tires a little bit on wastewater, and that can be done practically for free. So I personally think that, especially given that we don't have a strong, like a strong push besides one ARPA proposal, that we should continue to do that work on our own as a commission, not involve the ARPA committee, because the funds that needed for that kind of work can be obtained for free other ways.
Does anyone feel differently and feel like we should submit anything to the ARPA committee on wastewater?
Yeah.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I am too.
You know, about the town plan, I think we don't have to have everything supported by the town plan. It's important that everything that is proposed doesn't violate the town plan.
Right, and that really falls on the ARPA committee.
In other words, you could have something there that the town plan doesn't have any statement about at all.
Oh, 100%. I just felt like the stuff that didn't have anything to do with the town plan. And I mean, I might be wrong here. People might have other ideas for things you want to submit. But I felt like solely for purposes of us looking at whether we wanted to submit anything, that it was probably stuff that would be addressed in the town plan. But I agree with you, David.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
The disc golf course doesn't have to be in the town plan.
No.
Yeah, it's not relevant.
Well, it's recreation though.
Yeah. Everything's well, I think David said the town plan's pretty vague. At the end of the day, most things are in the town plan in some way, right? Like the disc golf course.
As long as it doesn't violate the town plan.
Yep.
As long as it's not doing something that the town plan says, no, we don't want to do it that way, like something that is, creating a lot of energy consumption.
Right.
I mean, the one thing I think we should submit a one-pager on is I think we should support the natural resources inventory ask, because if we're going to do this, if we're going to spend time over the next couple of years on these zoning items, then the gating issue, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, was that we needed this natural resources inventory. And I know Val's already submitted something for it through natural resources, but it seems like it would increase the chances of being allocated money if we also sent a one-pager and said, hey, yeah, we very much support this because we need this to start our process of looking at zoning at some point.
And what were the other items that we thought were relative to what we already?
So the four things I flagged were wastewater, which I just crossed off, natural resources inventory, high-speed internet, and stormwater. And then anything else.
So the stormwater one, that the town is probably like like the road foreman is probably aware of what stormwater projects need to be done. Wouldn't they be the ones to apply for ARPA funds for that? If it's on the list of things that we recommended?
Certainly got the option to.
Yeah, so
Sometimes the town budget can't afford it in every year, and it might be getting washed out on occasion, and they're doing repairs rather than replacing when they should.
I think if you wanted to get a complete answer to how the highway department's input has been used in making decisions about how to spend ARPA money, then Brad would be the person to invite to a planning commission meeting. I just haven't had that much involvement in it. So I don't really have the answers to that, but it sounds probably worth looking into. So.
Well, to pick up on that,
It was a stormwater survey, as you recall, and there were maybe 5 expensive things that had needed doing, and they completed the Underhill Flats one. But I think that was more what we had in mind when we talked about that, because those were really significant. They were parking areas or very significant stormwater areas.
one option might be just to submit a one-pager and say, I mean, in some ways, this is just sort of kicking it down the field, but it's really not up to us. I mean, we're not on the ARPA committee, but we're sending a one-pager saying, hey, just a reminder, stormwater upgrades scored #1 in the public survey. Not sure if you're aware this study was commissioned. It might be worth you guys taking a look at it. I mean, if they want to spend ARPA money on stormwater, that's completely their decision. I mean, do we want to flag that stormwater upgrades was #1 in the public survey? And hey, here's a study that the town commissioned. Might be worth you all taking a look at it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard.
So
I've
you're
heard
saying
3
not specifically in support of this Stevensville Maple Leaf, but stormwater in general.
Yeah, more of just like an
Yeah.
FYI memo saying, hey, just a reminder, this scored #1 on the public survey. This is a resource that we've looked at in the past when we were looking at it in connection with the town plan. You all might want to take a look at it when you're thinking about ARPA funding,
But
period.
I feel like they won't know what to do with that. Like maybe like Sandy was saying, is there a parking lot that I don't know how that got to be #1 on the list. Is there a particular problem that needs to be addressed? And if so, we should submit an application for that particular problem. Because if we just say, hey, stormwater, they're gonna be like, ah.
Unfortunately, the public survey just asked if you think this is a big issue, basically, and then they were ranked by the public responses, and #1 was stormwater. So there wasn't a drop-down list or a fill in the blank box saying like, why are you saying this? So the data's kind of, I don't know, not ideal.
Or just reach out to the road commissioner and ask him what specific projects he sees as being urgent, and is something that the
It's probably in the town report.
Or another option is not to do anything with the ARPA committee with this. I don't know what people think. I'm just flagging it because it was #1 on the survey.
If I can, so far what I've heard, the proposals that I've heard or ideas I've heard floated for communicating this commission's opinions and thoughts on this subject to the ARPA committee have been a general exhortation to review the town plan, specific and other parts of feedback related to it. So like a general exhortation to focus on the priorities that we've identified. Also support for a handful of actual existing proposals. And then the possibility of offering like constructive criticism on some of those proposals from the perspective of, folks who engage with the town plan.
We're just being a resource on the proposals, I think, maybe, versus providing, I don't think it's our place to critique everyone's proposal, but if they wanted to know, if they wanted to use us as a resource, like, hey, this is really interesting. Is there to Val's point, basically. I just don't know if I'd want to say constructive.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we should be judging everyone else's proposal.
I think it was more just to keep it in line with how the town plan is constructed.
Right.
Yeah, I meant just sort of like, hopefully useful like feedback.
Yeah.
To the applications based on, sorry, I think this.
Oh, wow, Val and Sandy, whoever, Sandy.
I feel differently about our input on the proposals. I think it's up to us um, to comment on them so that we can get as much out of each proposal that adheres to the town plan. This is town money, so it seems like we should be able to um, maybe we say, okay, I'm not saying that we decide on any of the proposals, but that we ask the committee to request that each proposal have a specific alignment, like what Val was saying before. Um, that we can, uh, yeah, each one is a little different, but some of them align already. Bang, they align. The library, if they did this, then it would be adhere to the town plan better, and we suggest that they do that or something like that. That's my input.
So just,
Well, it doesn't have to adhere to the town plan. All it has to do is not violate the town plan. If it's important for the town.
We're trying to implement some policies that are important to the town, and that's what we're trying to do. So if there's town money that is being designated to people, then it seems to me that we can tailor that so that we're getting more out of it for the town.
Of course, but it might not be something that's in the town plan. It might come up and say, this is important. Town plan just misses this, but we've got to do it.
are you saying we would
That's
like
okay.
score each one, Sandy, or are you saying we would only comment on specific ones, like just to use the library as an example, like, hey, library, we just want to make a comment on the library that maybe they should think about heat pumps because the town plan is promoting energy efficiency.
Yeah, I don't think it, I think it should be more than a suggestion. I think you know, the, all things considered, we need to be tweaking things towards energy efficiency and sources other than fossil fuels. So in that particular case, I think we should say that we will allot you this money, but here are some things that we're requiring that you do. And it's up to them whether they decide whether or not they can do that or they want to do that. But at least we've made it clear that we don't want to just fund anything. We want it to be moving forward.
So you're saying, sorry, Val, I definitely see. So I'm just trying to understand from the logistical perspective, because I'd probably be working with Nick on this. You're saying that we'd almost have like a list that went back to the ARPA committee saying with specific comments, maybe not on all of them, like, but on some of them, if there was something you thought that was important, that we thought was important with respect to the town plan, like energy efficiency.
Right.
Understood. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Sandy has been saying, and I have a friendly amendment. I I would put aside these applications that have come in and think, what is our planning commission's purview? And it is to implement the town plan. And I think that this is a unique opportunity to take 600 some odd dollars and get to the action items in our town plan. Now, personally, I am really motivated by the parts of the town plan that speak to resiliency, climate, and energy efficiency. And so, to that end, I would love to see the Planning Commission put forward its own proposals for action items that come directly from the town plan. So rather than going through these 20 applications and scoring them or prioritizing, like, let's look through those action items. What do we feel like would be a real benefit to the town? So as an example, solar on town buildings, improving the resiliency of the town hall or of a town building so that in the case of a climate emergency, it can be a resilient center for the community. And I feel like this is like not a once in a lifetime, but close to a once in a lifetime funding opportunity to see some of these projects come to real life fruition. Looking through, I mean, I think we can provide advice to the ARPA committee, like this propane, whatchamacallit, the
Generator.
propane generator, right? Like it's 2023. That does not align with our town plan. Like we should be encouraging batteries. You can get huge subsidies. You know, so yes, we could give feedback, but I would suggest that we just put forth action items that clearly stem from the town plan.
So, so then just again, just process-wise, to do that, we would obviously have to go to Jen and say, hey, we need one more meeting. And I know you're scheduled to talk to her tomorrow because the ARPA committee had told Val and I, if you need extra time, let us know. So if, assuming everyone's on board with what Val said, I think whether or not you agree with the priority, I think what we would do then is for the next meeting, we would say, hey, everyone come prepared if you have any items that, whether it's critiquing one of the current ones, like, hey, we're concerned about the propane generator, or if it's, I think we should do community solar, like Val said, or if it's just what I said, hey, let's submit something saying, hey, yeah, we really think a natural resources inventory is important. If it's anything that falls in any of those three categories, like an important critique on an existing thing, something we want to submit, whether it's been submitted already or not, then we would put together that list and submit that list to the ARPA committee. But we would need one more meeting to do that because we're not going to resolve this in 13 minutes.
Right.
I would offer.
No, I think that's good.
Don't they want everything by the end of January?
Yeah, but he told us, I'm doing some paraphrasing here, but he told us because of the short time frame, I said I'd bring it up in the next meeting. He said if you need more time, just let us know.
What was the
So
last
they're not
time?
going to, the applications need to be in by the end of the month.
Right.
Right.
But
And now that they want to start deciding on which ones to approve.
yeah, but he had made it, I thought, Bell, tell me if you disagree with this. I thought he had made it pretty clear that if we needed a little more time, it was not a big deal.
So I do have a comment to the town garage. I don't know how it sits on the lot. I think it has eastern exposure, maybe. So in order to use batteries, you have to have some solar storage. And you would have to have a boatload of batteries to store enough.
Yeah, I don't think that would work for like the sorts of heavy loads that they need.
I know.
Batteries wouldn't cut it, so you need a real generator.
Heavy equipment, right? It's not that it would get used all the time. I just think the use of batteries won't be able to handle the amount of use it's going to take. You could ask, we could find out. Charlie could probably tell us.
Yeah.
The amount of kilowatt hours that they're using.
Right. You could just match the kilowatt hours with a battery.
Right. I just want to note the ARPA, this ARPA application proposal process is completely made up by the town. So this is not something that is defined by statute or even tied to how the funds must be administered. They simply have to be spent by, I think, end of calendar year allocated by end of calendar year 2024, which gives us quite a bit of time to work out the details.
True, we just need the ARPA. We need to, well, I think we should make sure we're being respectful of the ARPA committee's purview and go to them and say, hey, we circled up on everything with a specific request for time. Like, it's going to take us another meeting. It's going to take us another 2 meetings. Maybe to be conservative, we say, let me know what you think. Maybe we say 2 meetings. We'll have our final feedback to you by February 20th or whatever, making up the date.
So would the final feedback look like looking at all those applications and get a little closer and maybe think, grading them or something like that? Or what would that look like?
I think that's up to all of us. I mean, as I listen, I hear 3 categories, like new stuff where nothing's been submitted, like ballot flag, critiques on one of the 20 that we looked at where we think it's important that we say something. And then I guess it's a separate category, but things that have already been submitted that we think are also important and we might want to resubmit on, like the natural resources inventory. So less of a critique, but submitting on something that's already been submitted on in 20.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm missing something, but process-wise, that seems to be what people are saying, if I'm understanding right. Val?
Yes, sorry, not to comment on what you were saying, but Brian, you mentioned this earlier. They did mention that no one from the Planning Commission is on the ARPA committee. And I like how, we've got not the Energy Committee, the Climate Committee and the NRI Committee. We've got links back to the Planning Commission. And I don't know if the ARPA committee is still open to having new commissioners, or I don't know what they call their committee members, but I do think it would be great if someone from the Planning Commission would sit on the ARPA committee.
That's a separate question. If anyone, mull it over, not to put anyone on the spot, if anyone wants to throw their hand up to try to get a spot on the ARPA committee representing the Planning Commission, I don't know what everyone's time looks like. So if anyone has any interest, let us know. Well, does that process sound okay to everyone? Is everyone okay saying next meeting? Well, 2 things. One, Nick, because you're talking to Jen tomorrow, right? Saying we'd like 2 meetings feels like the right number.
February 16th would be the second PC meeting in February.
So maybe we'd say like February 20th or something to give us some.
And all of these are on the website, all
They
these
are.
proposals?
They are.
So we could go look at them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that.
The last 3 might not have been uploaded by now, but Jen they are in our our
Okay.
server files, so Jen's digitized them and stuff, so I imagine they're probably up on the website.
Okay.
So maybe just say end of February. Like if we could get you everything by end of February, that would be point 1 to see if people agree with them. Point 2 would be to come to the next Planning Commission meeting with anything new you think we should submit or any critiques of the current ones, and start the process of going through that list over the next. I'm guessing there's not going to be unanimous agreement on everything, so maybe it'll take 2 meetings.
So what we should do, as I'm gathering, we can go through each one, and you might take first one and say, this is very strongly supported by the town plan, blah, blah, blah. Or another one, this is very important for the town. The town plan does not specifically support this, but it is not against the town plan. So we think you can go.
You mean on the 20 that have already been submitted? That's sort of up to everyone. I would almost offer that I don't know if we need to submit feedback on all 20. Maybe there's only 3 we want to submit feedback on. Like I personally don't feel like we need to submit feedback on like the disc golf course and buying land. Like that's like up to the ARPA committee. Unless you feel otherwise.
No.
Okay.
So we'll have to extend the deadline in case we.
I know, we're asking to put it out a month, not a week.
We're asking to
That's a
put it
month.
out a month.
Not a week.
So the deadline for the application will be put out.
Maybe should
So
shorten
put
it.
on for-
Yeah, I guess Jen
The
would.
problem is that what if we go into 1 meeting, then we have to go back and ask for another extension.
I guess Jen would extend the deadline. Yeah, or
Because we might
the
want-
committee would extend the deadline.
Because we might want to put in a couple applications in.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well,
We don't get anything you don't
I think
ask
we're
for,
putting it-
so maybe we ask for end of February, and then if they're like, no, you can only have 2 weeks, then we'll deal with it.
I'll talk to Jen about it and see whether they're going to meet next week, I believe, or no, I think they're done meeting for the month.
Would you mind just like circulating back an email to everyone with what Jen says on that, just in case we need to somehow pivot our plan?
So which 3 are we focusing on? Natural resources and,
It's totally up to you. I guess just come back to the next meeting with what you think we should submit, if anything, to the ARPA committee. Whether it's a critique of one of the ones you feel strongly about of the 20, or if it's something new you think hasn't been. Yeah. Whatever you think.
Okay. Are these
proposals online on the town website?
Yeah, Nick said they are.
Okay.
And I will distribute, I'm writing this down, my little action items. I will distribute a link to where everyone can find those and view them for themselves.
Beautiful.
Good.
Link to
I
our
think that'll be helpful.
proposals.
So I think unless anyone has anything more important, well, I shouldn't say more important, more urgent, it feels like basically the agenda for the next meeting, Nick, is ARPA.
ARPA.
Then we'll plow through this and then get back to everything else.
ARPA equals next meeting agenda.
Now, just as a little background stuff, Peter Bennett raised a question
Oh,
about
right.
the, the accessory dwelling units and what we had done there or not done. And I think we should have a list of everything that we have actually done and changed, basically, or suggested be changed in the regulations, something printed out that we can look at, because everything is a little bit forgotten at this point. It's way back there.
Well,
And I think it's not important right now.
yeah. Well, I think that's on Nick's list for when we get through the ARPA stuff, because Nick wanted to address,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna ask that you don't get into it right now, Nick, because it's 7:26. Nick had wanted to change the way we were looking at these, because you know how we're going page by page and looking at everything, which is great, we have to do that. But Nick wanted to change the structure of how we were reviewing all the zoning regs,
Yeah.
but we really can't circle back to it until after ARPA. I think.
Right, after ARPA.
But yeah, I agree. Yeah, we do
We
need
need to
that.
print out at that point.
Yeah, well, we should, and this is on me. What I need to do is start a spreadsheet tracking the various changes, so we can
Yeah.
track from the point that
Yeah.
they're.
Well, we can start on that project after maybe in like 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah,
Just to
I'd
get
like to
through
do
it.
that.
Yep,
My-
I've got, a number of things to deal with.
My only critique with that email was that, which I take a little personally, since not the email, I take the critique a little personally, since I'm the one who posted the ads. Like, we posted multiple ads on Front Porch Forum asking for people to get engaged in this process, and one person replied. She didn't live in Underhill.
Oh, the housing committee, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
right.
literally, we did all the work to start it. We went to the select board, wrote a memo, got it approved, put 2 ads on Front Porch Forum, and 0 people volunteered. So I do think that's important. That's out there for the record. It's not like we're ignoring this. We've been proactively trying to deal with it, and no one volunteered.
When we come out with the zoning change, we do a lot of work with public outreach and so on.
Yeah.
I think meetings and everything. And then when it comes along, everybody's coming into the meeting. What's going on? What's this question about? It's not just 9 out of 10. It's about 24 out of 25, basically.
Yeah.
That don't know what's going on.
Well, we will
Came to find out.
circle back to all that in like 1 meeting or 2 meetings, and then we can get to work on the changes you want to make into the process, and assuming everyone's good with them, and get a list going of the changes, because we have done a number of things on ADUs that totally do. So.
Val had some.
Oh, sorry. No.
Well, speaking of no one volunteering, it reminded me, did we have any traction with BCRD and the select board? Vermont Council on Rural Development, and getting select board approval to invite them.
No, I haven't had time to really write a proposal for that. Yeah.
Let me know if there's anything I could do to help.
Yeah, I will actually. I'll get in touch with you, Val. Add that to my agenda items, because actually, yes, we should make some movement on that.
Maybe the one exception to what I just said about next meeting's agenda is that we have a 5-minute or 10-minute item for I totally forgot the acronym. Sorry, Bill. The VCRD,
Okay.
the VCRD update, because that was sort of time sensitive too.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, there's the candidates for the opening. Should we be setting up a time for interviewing?
I don't want to put pressure on anyone who's here, but yeah, if anyone, whether it's Mallory, Jared, looks like Jeff is not on, but anyone who is interested after attending it, no pressure. Please just email me. Happy to answer any questions, and we're happy to set up some time to talk to everyone on the planning commission and
Yeah, the procedure, we have an interview and then we have an executive
Yep.
session after everybody has been
Yeah.
interviewed, basically.
Yeah, I was doing the soft sell, David. I was letting people feel it out. Yeah. But yes, if anyone is interested, we'd love to set up, go to the next step and set up an interview.
I just want to say thank you all for letting me sit in and attend. It was a really fascinating discussion and really important work that you were all doing. And I'd love to find a way to contribute and if I fit in with the mission. So happy to reach out, Brian, and learn more.
Amazing. Thank you, Jared, and thank you for your time and thank you for your time for coming.
Yeah.
So,
You stayed awake.
okay, with that being said, it's 7:30. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Is there a second? All in favor? All right, awesome. Everyone have a good night. Thank you.